going. That is the... Everybody in the world touched the pad and it should be used.
I'm going.
So I've got the... let's take a little... Now then, crew, and welcome to the Andy Mechanic YouTube channel. This is the 7th episode, and I'm sincerely hoping the final episode in the MR2 saga. And if you've watched the mail call video that I put out a little bit earlier on, you'll know that we have a replacement MR2 ECU, and this is exactly the same part number as the one that came out of the car. So you'll see this is the new one, and that's the original one. Look at that, it even fits on the screen. Bloody good. So yes, I was contacted by a chap that I'd never spoken to or never met, a guy called Andrew Kansas, I believe, from England. Sorry Andrew if I don't pronounce your surname correctly. He watched that 6th video, and in that video I gave the part number of the ECU, and he found one in his garage because he'd replaced his ECU, his genuine ECU, with an aftermarket one on his MR2. He's done lots of modifications to it, so you should check out his YouTube channel, and I'll put a link in the description, and you'll also see that I've been watching quite a few of his videos.
Hey Andy Mechanic, I just thought I would show you the ECU and then we're all good. I've just got to go through this shelving and I've got a table tennis table in the way, but let me find it. Now it is somewhere here. Where the hell is it? There he is, hidden away. So that's the part number. It came from a 3SGE. It's a manual. It's 26 pin, 16 and 22.
And they're very, very different to mine. I love the way that he does the presentation, and always putting bolts back in the place that they came from. Honestly, it's fantastic. So much detail. Really good, Andrew. So we've got the new ECU. Now there's a couple of bits and pieces I need to do before I can fit the new ECU. I've got a wire to fix, the IGF wire that I snipped just by the ECU on the wiring harness. I've got to fix that. I'll do that off camera. Then we're going to fit the new ECU. I've got to swap all the little brackets and bits and pieces across. Rig up the scope, and we've got a new scope that PicoScope have sent. Very, very helpful chaps over there. Mike Valentine and the team sent me a brand new automotive full kit. So that's not just the scope, that's a few other bits and pieces in that box. So I've uploaded the software to the laptop, and we can use that for this very test, because when we run the car up, and I really hope it's fixed, I want to get IGF, IGT, and also injector pulse, because don't forget, and I'm sure you haven't, but if the ECU doesn't see an IGF, that's the handshake waveform signal, which is created by the igniter pulling a 5-volt voltage that's put out on the IGF pin on the ECU. It pulls it down to ground and then releases it to create the square wave waveform. Found all that out during episode 6. If it doesn't see that for around about 8 pulses, so if 8 of them go missing, or if they are a waveform that steps outside what's recognized as known good by the ECU, so you might still see something on the scope, but the voltage may be too high or too low, so it's just not within that recognized threshold. So if it doesn't see those for 8 pulses or more, it will turn off the injectors, and it does that specifically to prevent neat fuel being basically blown down the exhaust, which would damage the cat. It's a safety thing. So it has to see that handshake voltage. And the problem we got with the original ECU that we diagnosed is that 5 volts that comes out of the ECU on the IGF pin It's not a constant 5 volts. It's all over the place. It was down to as low as 0.75 of a volt, and it went up to almost battery voltage. So there was clearly a fault with the ECU, but it took me a very long time to find it. And nothing that I've read on the net gave me any indication that 5 volt supply is given by the ECU. Everything I read indicated that it was the igniter that generated the 5 volt voltage down that wire and created the waveform. It's not quite true. ECU gives the voltage, the igniter pulls it to ground. But enough of that, you can always watch episode 6. Okay, so without further ado, let's swap across the brackets on the ECU, get it installed, connect the battery, connect the PicoScope, and fingers crossed, turn the key, she's fixed. God, it'll be a few pints tonight if it is. Right, here we go. Oakley dokley. Right, so we'll do this one first. Pretty simple stuff, isn't it, really? But jeez, it's tight. Right, let's do one bracket at a time because I'm terrible at mixing things up. Okay, that goes on there like that. I imagine that Andrew's had to use the original brackets for his new aftermarket ECU, which I think he fitted because he also put a turbo on the car as well. Very cool. I am told, I've heard rumours around New Zealand, a few people have told me, that that model of MR2 in Japan, and it was never exported. It must have been a real animal. They fitted a V8 engine to a little tiny car like that. I mean, man, they get that snap steer problem as it is, don't they? So, God, I put the V8 engine in the back, but maybe, or maybe it's just, you know, wishful thinking that somebody put a V8 in it. But it was done at the factory. I don't think they sold that many of them. Maybe you could stick if you know about it, if you've got any information on it, stick it in the comments because it'd be interesting to know. Right, we'll stick that over there. Do this one next. There we go. Yeah, what a machine with a V8. Well, I think it maybe what, 3 litre V8 maybe? Bags of torque. Hey, those things go pretty well as it is. They're known as the poor man's Porsche around here. I remember watching an episode of Top Gear and James May was doing some grass tracking in one. They actually had quite a few because he kept crashing them. They had loads of spare cars. They're obviously not that expensive in the UK. Right, one more bracket. One at the back. God. Jeez. Right. Exactly. Dum 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 dum. I will play some music during this bit, but YouTube always flags it as being somebody else's. So, because I can't play the music, I've got no idea. I can't write music, so that's not going to happen. There we go. Ta-da! Cheers, Andrew. Right, let's head out to the MR2 and get this fitted. Now, my apologies, again, I'm always apologising at the moment. The car is just on the drive because I've got an ROV under the canopy outside, and it should have been finished yesterday, but we found some more faults, so now I need some more parts, so that the whole thing's been delayed by a whole week, which means I can't put the MR2 under the canopy. Besides, it's downhill and it doesn't start, as you know, so that's the way it is. Okay, outside, and you might get a bit of noise. There's plenty of cicadas and stuff making what they do, so I'll try and make the audio as best as I can. Okay, welcome to the boot space again. Now, hopefully, this is the new one. Hopefully that's just going to click into there. Hopefully I've not damaged the plug. Yeah, and he's damaged the plug. Bollocks. Bloody good. Okay, well we'll just have to push it on manually and make sure it's all the way in. I think once that's down it should hold it in anyway. That'll work. Okay. Right, soldering time then. So I need to get out of there. I need to connect that onto there, but I also want to give myself a little output for the pickup for the scope as well, just to make life a bit easier, so I'm not back probing and shit. You know, just pick it up straight off there. Right, side cutters and a soldering iron, I think. Oakley. Oh, I love it when a plan comes together. Okay. Right, we'll just twizzle those two together. And don't forget the heat shrink. Ooh, that's going to be close. Damn. That's really close. And we can't get any more out of that either. Maybe I should go make my pickup wire a bit longer. Yeah. I'll go make a new one of those. Back shortly. Look at that, you see? Instantly, I'm back. Bloody good, isn't it? Right. So, let's connect that onto there. Chuck down the heat shrink, which can go all the way down there now, actually, right out of the way. And we're just going to solder those two together. So, we'll just twizzle those two together. And all we need now is a bit of solder. Let's try not to burn everything if we can help it. It's so muggy at the moment, it's unbelievable. Oh, fire's got out. Oh, a spare bit. Well, that's a pretty good joint. Quite happy with that. I'm going to fall apart. This is all it has. Stick that over there. Cover it up. Give that a solder. One solder. Don't want that sat inside the loom. That wouldn't do any good. Cool, I think we're there. Right. Bloody good. Okay. So we've got our IGT output and our IGF output. Wonderful. Okay, let's go and get the ECU, plumb it up, poke this in where it should be, put the clip over, and see what happens, eh? Right, said Fred. That was a while ago, wasn't it? Right. So that goes in there. Click. And that has to go in that way around. Like that. That's on the pin, I can feel it. Make sure it's all the way down. Perfect. Let's close that up. More plugs. Last one. Okay. Now it's those two, I think. Right, IGT, IGF. Yes, I know I use exactly the same colour wires, but it doesn't matter. I know which is which. IGF, IGT. Okay, let's go and find the oscilloscope. And we've got the new one, don't forget. We'll get it all plumbed up. Okay, just to run through the colour codes, we've got IGT on the blue channel, IGF, the return signal from the igniter to the ECU, on the red, and the injector pulse on the green. Here we go. Oh, and all three channels are grounded by the engine block. So we're going to use 3 of the 4 channels. So the blue channel is our IGT, the trigger signal, which should be no more than 5 volts, so we'll just choose 10 volts DC. Channel B, same, should be about 4.5 volts, but we'll go with 10 just to be on the safe side. And the green channel is our injectors, so we're going to go for, I think, 50 volts, because there is an induced volt. Oh, maybe 100. We can always scale it in, can't we? Okay, just to be on the safe side. Right, let's just split these up a little bit. So we'll put IGT, the trigger, right down the bottom. We'll put our IGF, that's the handshake signal, back. Stick it about there, should be clear. And then we'll put our injector pulse just up here somewhere for now. Okay. Now then, time frame. Let's have a look at that. Oh, sorry, not time frame. That's the number of samples. I'll let it choose lots. And as regards divisions, I think we had last time was about that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we'll just stop that. I'll go and connect the battery. Well, the battery is connected and the ignition keys are in ready. So all that's left to do now is see what happens. God, here we go. Oh my God, it's still running. Hey, that IGF looks really good, really clean. It's too early to tell yet though, don't forget. This thing ran for about 3 minutes. The first time I started it up, before it died. That was on video 1, episode 1 of the series. That is so clean, that is absolutely fantastic. So there you go, that's what these signals should look like. You've got your IGT, your trigger signal, in the blue at the bottom. You've got your IGF, your handshake signal back from the igniter back to the ECU. Looking clean as a whistle as that, so regular. And then of course we've got the injector pulse at the top, but that was there just to monitor if the injector stopped stopped operating, but hey, we'd know that because the engine had stopped. Hey, it's really cool to actually be right every now and again. It took a long time to get there, didn't it? Wow. Let's give it a rev. Brum, brum. Yes, she burns a bit of oil. Poor car. Right. Okay, we'll leave it running in the background. I'm just going to stop this now, and we'll have a little look and just get a bit of a close-up. Okay, so we can go on to that. And realistically, it's the IGF that I'm really concerned about, so we'll have a little look at that. Wow. That is so clean. Put that up there for now. So, we've got that right. Okay, so normal sort of peak voltage. I'll try to get the average. Oh, look at that, 5.056 volts, and the baseline for that waveform is that average there. Look, because obviously there we go. We've got, you know, half a volt, 5.6, so 0.56 of a volt as the base. And for the IGT, let's have a little look at that. Same again, with our little measurer. Four and a half volts for the base. Oh, 13 millivolts, okay. Let's just zoom out for a second because I want to just overlay those two, which I think I can do. There, like that. Excellent. So I'm still learning with this, so you'll bear with me. There we go. So, blue trace, don't forget, is IGT, the trigger from the ECU to the igniter to say, hey mate, give me a spark. It does that, and immediately afterwards we get confirmation from the igniter that there's been an ignition cycle. And the igniter senses the change in current flow down the black and white wire, which is the grounding wire, the negative side of the primary winding on the ignition coil. Faultless. Right, back into the workshop. Now, it's very rare that I ever do pieces to camera with the garage doors open, because if I step back, well, usually it goes really dark on the camera, so maybe we're in luck today. You can still hear the MR2 is idling quite happily, and it's on a fast idle because it's still warming up, but bloody good, we fixed it after all that diagnostics. I'm really chuffed because that's like a bit of a confirmation that, well, we did a good job, didn't we? And you know, after all that, there we are, look. After all that, it turned out, obviously, it wasn't the igniter. We know that. We proved it. We bench tested it. We got really clean IGF waveform from that when we gave it a clean power supply. The problem? Bloody ECU. Now, I don't know how to test ECUs and stuff, but maybe I'll do a video where we delve into the depths of the circuit board and try and do some basic continuity tests to see if we can find a break. But I don't think that's going to work, because we were getting a voltage, but the voltage was all over the place. It wasn't just below the 5 volts that it should be. We've proved that with the other ECU, 5 volts on the peaks. We've seen over voltage. We've seen in the past 11 and a half volts on that line. Now, sure, over time that probably will destroy an igniter. It's designed to cope with 5 volts being supplied on the IGF wire, not 11 and a half. So, you know, maybe this igniter's not particularly happy, but when we bench tested it, it was just fine. All the signals it was giving were fine. Okay, so where do we go from here? Well, on that car, all that's left to do now is a little bit of bodywork on the roof. There's a bit of a rust spot, which is bad. It was there a few years ago. I fixed it. It's come back again. I'm not the world's best at bodywork, and no, I didn't cut out the rot and weld the plate in. It just got bogged over the top, which is terrible, I know, but I didn't have time to take all the roof lining out. So, finally, we bring this series to a conclusion, and I would like to thank everybody that's helped me along this journey. It has been a learning curve for me. Please don't think for 1 minute that I knew what the outcome was going to be when I started this series. I had no idea, and I was as surprised as you were to find it was an ECU issue. In actual fact, I kept denying that and going back and testing the other components in the system and the wiring, because I did not believe it could be an ECU problem. But hear for yourself, it really was. Alright chaps, well, if you enjoyed the video, why not subscribe to the channel? Click on the subscribe button. You'll see a little gear icon turn up. Click on the gear icon and then you can tick the box and turn on notifications. You'll also find me on Facebook, Instagram, Google+, and Twitter. Feel free to communicate through any of those portals. However, first point of contact, if you wouldn't mind, through the comments on YouTube. I'd just like to thank especially Eric O for giving me a hand, really just verifying my diagnostic procedure. He's been very helpful, and without Eric's previous videos that he'd done using the scope, I would have been struggling a little bit. I definitely have learned a lot from very intelligent chap actually. He puts himself down, but he's bloody good at what he does. And if you haven't come across his channel, he's on the South Main Auto. Check it out, awesome channel. Okay crew, well I've got loads of jobs to do and another video to record. See you around. Cheers, over and out.